Hi. We're never not going to giggle when this starts.
We are never not. I mean, yeah, it's fine.
So, how's the rest of your week been?
So this is, I want to say my first week, but I think it's my second week post launch because I launched on the 13th.
Right.
And so now I have kind of a launch hangover. I'm like, just like, I was really, really excited for a while, and I sold 60 books
Nice.
in the first week.
Mhm.
And some of those were, it's almost 50-50, the first book and the second book.
Mhm.
It's a few more of the second book than the first book, but so that was really exciting. And then I did get my boxes finished, and so I mailed the boxes to 5 of my people from my street team.
Right.
And one of them got it today. She posted pictures of it.
Yeah.
So that was exciting. And then I posted 2 to my Etsy shop and 2 to my TikTok shop, and then I'm holding one in reserve because there's somebody who told me they wanted to buy one, and I want to make sure that she gets it. So I'm waiting for her to tell me she's ready, and then I'll put it there so she can have it.
Mm-hmm.
But I sold all but, like, I have one left. I sold both of the ones off of Etsy, and then I sold one of the one that was on TikTok. So I only have one live right now. And TikTok is cranky with me because they're like, you have low inventory. And I'm like, I know. I didn't buy enough supplies at the initial run because I wasn't sure I was going to like them. So, but now that I know that I like them, I went ahead and ordered more, but they're coming from China. So I don't know when they're going to get here. So meanwhile, I have everything I need for boxes for the first book. So if people want to buy those boxes, those are good to go. And then today I had put up the 2 books as a bundle, not a box. It's just the 2 books and stickers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold the first order of that today. So that was fun because they're still getting most of the stuff. They're not getting like the coffee, and they're not getting the little tin, and but they're getting all the paper stuff, the stickers and the bookmarks and the character art.
Right.
And so I'm still wrapping the books, and then I put them in a padded envelope instead of a box. So it's cheaper to ship. So that was fun to do. But I haven't sold any books except for the TikTok and the Etsy ones. I haven't sold any books in the last 3 days. And so now I'm like sad, even though I sold I was doing really well. And it was like, oh, you're selling like 12 or 13 books and 20 books and then like 3 books and then 2 books and then nothing. And I'm like, well, that was fun for a week. So now I'm trying to figure out what I should do to get people to buy some more, but I also should really be spending my time writing the book since that's what I said I was going to do this week, but then chaos happened. I did go and do further outlining and further note taking, and I know I said last week that I was ready to start writing, but I think I maybe wasn't.
Right.
And now maybe I am. But I took a substitute job yesterday at the school, and the teacher had a 4th period prep. So after I taught 3 classes in a row, I spent 4th period working on my book.
How did that feel?
So that was interesting to just be like working in a different location,
mm-hmm.
and having a restricted time period because somebody else expected me to be somewhere. So I had like an hour and a half to get as much done as I can. So it's like a mandatory sprint.
Yeah, it motivates you in ways that you're like, wow, I didn't know I had to do this right now.
Yeah, so I did that. So I think I have figured out how the time travel storyline matches up with the Grimoire Vegan Vampire storyline, and I sort of sorted where they interlock.
Mm-hmm.
All the way up to like the last half of the last act. So at the very end, where they resolve their problems, I know what the problems are, and I know what the resolution needs to be. I have yet to figure out how all the pieces come together. I have this like imaginary bag of puzzle pieces, and I don't know which ones belong to this puzzle and which ones need to just get out of the way. But I think that might be something that I figure out while I'm writing it. I think at this point I need to probably just start writing and then work stuff out when I get there. Because the pieces aren't going to change. It's just which ones I'm actually going to connect.
Okay.
I think I just need to start writing at this point. Okay. I have been saying that for like 3 weeks, but hopefully, nobody's going out of town this week, if I can get the kids to be a little bit healthy, and I can stop making excuses for myself and just do it. I need to just pick a scene and start writing it and see what happens.
Okay. So my week's been pretty good. Watched Agatha.
Yay!
Mephisto. They finally mentioned him.
I was going to say, did you watch all 3 of them, or did you just watch the 2 from last week?
They finally mentioned him.
They did. I know. People were so excited.
Yeah. Especially, I watched WandaVision. And not only did I watch WandaVision, but I watched, Screen Crush, New Rock Stars, and Previewed with Jay and Adam. And everybody was on that Mephisto train. Boy, everybody was on that Mephisto train. And so when he didn't show up, it was like,
yeah.
And they finally said it. Oh my God.
They did. I don't know. This last episode, they were pushing pretty hard that he's going to turn out to be Nicholas Scratch, but I don't know if it's a misdirection or not.
Yeah, I don't know. If I had to guess, it's probably her boys from either one or both of her boys from Multitude
of Madness?
Yes.
Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness, yes. I think that connects that more so than Nicholas Scratch. But I think Agatha thinks he is Nicholas.
Yeah, I mean, she's acting like it's her, like she kept him from drinking the thing. But that one conversation that he had with Jenn, the way that he was reacting to some of the stuff she was saying, it made it look like he thinks that he's her son, maybe? I don't know. When she was telling him that, she traded her son for the book.
Right. Or that maybe he is tagging along so he could be the next sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it felt to me. But I really, I love this show. I really do.
It's so good.
So good. And it's scary.
Yeah.
It is.
The last one especially was really creepy.
Right. Especially when everybody's faced with Twilight Zone. I was like, oh no. If Rod Sterling pops out, I'm done.
What is happening?
Oh, but that was I really liked it. We can discuss that more, but because Mr. McMahon dropped.
Yeah.
And I watched the first 2 episodes. They dropped all 6. I watched the first 2.
Mm-hmm.
I have been a lifelong wrestling fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was explaining to Bill that for him, NFL is everything. He can tell you stories and stats from before he was born. NFL is to Bill as WWE is to me.
Okay.
Right. So Bill doesn't understand or know any of the controversy that has ever surrounded wrestling. Mm-hmm. I know it all as a lifelong fan. And going through this, and he's learning the history and learning what wrestling is giving him a deeper understanding of it. Mm-hmm. But then too, I'm talking about it. I'm like, I lived through every last thing that they're talking about. I'm like, from 78 forward.
Okay.
Everything that he's talking about, I have lived through. Right. And so I've just stoked. And yes, we all knew McMahon was a villain. Wrestling fans know it's fake. We know that it is theater. We know that it is a show. It is a soap opera. And we're smart enough to know that they're doing this for our pleasure and entertainment, and that there is a dark side, right? Mm-hmm. And the theater that they put onto us has been referred to as kayfabe. It's called kayfabe. Mm-hmm. all those fake relationships they portray when they're in the public as if it's real, but it really isn't. So when kayfabe broke and they started dealing more with reality, um, I was telling Bill about how we knew the shift was coming. We kind of went with it. And also, as wrestling fans, we know that professional wrestling is a place where we can feel raw emotion, good and bad. All right. And that's kind of the devil's deal that you have being a wrestling fan, because professional wrestling directly reflects the culture of the people who watch it. It directly reflects the culture of its fan base. So if they're looking a lot of sexist and racist and ultra violent, it's because the things that their audience that's appealing to your audience is this. And so we as the audience understands that if they're showing something that we don't like, it's because we told them to. And it's our responsibility to say, nah, that's not where we're going to do that. That's not what we're doing. You saw that a lot during Desert Storm with the storylines they were doing there. You saw it a lot when they started introducing women to the show. Um, and it's changed vastly over the 40 years I've been a fan, and it should have. And that's the thing I love about wrestling. Not just WWE, but all of them. That it will be a direct reflection, and we as fans are responsible, and we take that responsibility seriously. Even the even when folks are fans of problematic wrestlers, we understand that, we get that, right? And so now, as I'm less a fan of wrestlers and promotions, I'm just fan of people liking wrestling. When I see Black women like myself in their 20s and 30s being big fans of wrestling, I'm there for it. I'm absolutely there for it because I understand the serotonin kick they're getting from it. I understand the appeal, even if they're following folks that I wouldn't have followed. But the thing is that they know and we know that they shouldn't be, but they're doing it anyway. And you still understand because you understand what they're getting out of it. And so it was only a matter of time before Vince McMahon, all this stuff got exposed and he was pushed out. And yes, many of us believe that Triple H pushed him out because he sold China out to get into a position where he could lead that company. Believe that. And I'm not talking about the kayfabe part. I'm talking about like the real life stuff.
In life, yeah.
Yeah. China was a victim of Triple H's lust for power. And Triple H ended up marrying the boss's daughter, and now he's the boss. Now that Vince McMahon's been pushed out. And it's just been a good part of my life. And we knew that Vince McMahon was going to be exposed. We know we were going to be out. The biggest question we asked about this, because we knew it was being recorded before it came out, and then they recorded a lot of stuff after. Nearly 100 hours of footage was recorded before the allegations about him came out, and then they continued filming afterwards to kind of scoop up the aftermath. Our biggest question is who is going to be interviewing the entire time? Because it's front heavy with a lot of talent and journalists and folks like that. But then when they get to talking about the allegations, which one of the wrestlers is still going to be talking? We know Bret Hart, Trish Stratus, Tony Atlas will be. Undertaker is still Vince McMahon's boy. John Cena, we don't know. Hulk Hogan, he's Vince McMahon's boy, and plus he's a pariah in and of himself. We have these conversations, and those are the conversations we have because we understand that this is a very complex industry. It is complex entertainment. It's the complex made simple for our consumption. But those of us who've been fans as long as I have understand the complexities behind it, and it's still fun. it's still the best. I love it. And um, I may get back into it, but for right now, I'll just let the folks who are just enjoying it tell me why they enjoy it so much. And I'll watch this to be all nostalgic. And I'll tell my husband, like, yeah, the first Royal Rumble was in Richfield Coliseum in Cleveland, and I went to it. And somewhere around here, I still have the commemorative kind of like plate buckle that they um, that they passed out during that. I sold my WrestleMania chairs because it used to be when you bought um, chairs or you bought seats really close to the arena, they give you a chair. Those things $600 for that. I sold 3 chairs that I had.
Oh,
It's a big part of my life, and I love it. Love it. Okay, you were looking over the topic list. What did you want to talk about?
So we actually have been, even though we didn't look at the list, we've been doing pretty well, as it turns out, about talking about things that are on the list, even though like we didn't look at it. We talked a little bit about your definition of success. Do you want to talk about I don't know, about what it takes to make a creative business function and to not lose the creative, or not lose the, I don't know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying is hard to describe, and I'm trying to wrestle with it because I am successful in my own right. I am reformulating what the business looks like to me. But why don't we start small? When I first started in the indie as an indie author, I realized that I was going to have to go into the business part really hard because an indie author, the major difference between the indie author and the traditional author, and that's becoming less and less so as the years go on. But the major difference is that the indie author takes care of the business side as well.
Yeah.
And when I came into the business, I saw folks doing this as a widespread business. It's like a business. And I tried to do that as well, and it didn't work for me because, number one, I hadn't developed the business mind. And then the business mind I tried to develop did not work for me. Right. So I am going to share my personal business model that I absolutely adore. And it is project-based.
Okay.
It is absolutely project-based from now on. There is a thing I want to make. And so I am going to figure out the budget to make that thing.
Okay.
And I am going to tell myself I'm going to talk about it and market it, but I'm not. That's one of the things that I'm actually taking a class so I can be better at that. Because I know my laziness will work for me, but I just haven't figured out how exactly I can utilize that. Because my laziness has put all of this together. It keeps me focused on the one thing that gives me joy, helps me push through the stuff that I don't like, and we can move forward. Let's talk about the essentialism deck first. Okay. This started as a way to see my way through a difficult situation, because for me, creativity heals and joy is sacred, right? So I create every bit of merch is created for me as a way to make money, as a way to turn the thing I am really passionate about into making money for myself, right? But I have principles in that, and this is all part of it. Number one, the biggest principle is that it has to be accessible, not to everyone, but more accessible than the things that currently on the market are. But just the reason why I made the essentialism deck. I do not have a mind for remembering what these cards mean. I don't. And I wanted to learn them, so I put the meanings on there. And I'm also heavily distracted by all the images when I'm really trying to channel and get a message from source. through cards, I have a difficult time looking at the pictures because my mind will, I'll lose focus and my mind will go down a little rabbit hole about the actual picture instead of what is being told to me. I find it distracting. So I keep them when I do like general readings, when I'm doing like my daily card flip, not unlike what you do on TikTok, to see if I'm like on the path, if there's anything that I really need to understand. But for a specific type of deep study that I do, I was getting distracted and I was told to learn the cards and I wanted to learn them. So my project was to create a set of cards for me, to create a set of cards that wouldn't distract me, that would have the upright and the reverse meanings there. And it just were just clean. So I created this deck. At first, it was the first budget for these cards was $25 because I was only making one deck, right? So I told myself I'm going to make this deck and I'm going to spend $25 doing it. And this is prototyping.
Yeah.
The first step in doing stuff is prototyping and seeing if you have a viable product and see if you can make it work. Because I have a little bit of graphic design knowledge and I knew exactly what I want, I just needed to find a manufacturer who could do one deck of cards. I found them with making playing cards and I built the deck. And once I built the deck, I liked it. And you remember I sent it out to a bunch of folks to see if they liked it. And sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Once I got the card deck and I liked it, I increased the budget to $75 to make a set for prototyping so other people could play test it.
Okay.
And once that turned out well, I decided that I wanted to see if the public, my niche, would like it. Right. So with the $100 that I already spent, plus the knowing how much it was going to cost to print and ship them, I built a Kickstarter. And I explained why I love this and why I think you would like it. By that time, I had also developed the Lenormand deck because somebody introduced that to me. And I actually prefer Lenormand and Kipper to Tarot. So I made the Lenormand and that became the Kickstarter. And that went really well. That went extremely well. And it was enough for me to pay to cover my expenses making the cards and go forward in making Kipper cards.
Okay.
And now I have 100 decks of all three of those. What am I going to do with them? Right? The next step is, now that I know that people love these, I'm going to start talking about them and putting together the bundles of boxes.
Okay.
And have those out, sell them, ship those out. And from there, once again, cover my expenses. So you notice that I'm covering my expenses as I go along to the point where these boxes should be pure profit by the time the first 25 are sold.
Okay.
Because I wrapped up all of my expenses for development into the Kickstarter.
Okay.
The Kickstarter paid for that.
Yeah.
And for the Kipper cards. So all my inventory is paid for.
Okay. So the Kickstarter pays for development and then it also pays for the inventory that you haven't sold yet.
Yes.
Okay.
The Kickstarter pays for the inventory. So I have, if I'm just selling the cards are pure profit. But I also started making these candles and the selenite, and I really like the star crystals that I got.
Okay.
And I want to put together a box that reflects my worship process when I
Okay.
use these cards.
So we'll have the cards and a candle and the crystals together in a box.
And selenite,
Okay.
yep. And I have added maybe $15 total
Okay.
in supplies, packaging, and shipping to the box. And the box itself, the one I'm doing, there's going to be just the cards, a box with this
Mm-hmm.
separate cards in there, and then there'll be one with all three.
Okay.
And because of other Kickstarters, I have been able to order supplies like my actual shipping boxes,
Okay.
packing, the materials to test this out as a concept and to
Okay.
refine it.
So you did a Kickstarter for the candles?
No, I did a Kickstarter. Anytime we do a Kickstarter, what I do with the profit is I buy prototype size versions of my next project or
Oh, okay.
things that I'm really interested in.
Okay.
So I'm always testing out new things. I'm always kind of figuring out what I want in my next project.
Mm-hmm.
And I only use the money from items that I've already sold.
Okay.
All right. So, like all the enamel pins that I'm using in this box, they have already been paid for.
Okay.
That's the reason why I'm able to put together a really great box inexpensively, because
Mm-hmm.
I start with one or two things and I take the profit from that and I make more things for later boxes.
Okay.
Right. And I also use that to decide whether or not I'm going to continue with a project. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, um, my Stabby, um, my sponsor Stabby, the game, when I put that together, it was $15, and then I did a Kickstarter for it.
Okay.
And it paid for the cards, and it also paid for the books and the flash drives.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm deciding that the book, honestly, is the collector part and something that's going to be a Kickstarter exclusive because of all the things. And this includes me having to reorder sets of cards
Mm-hmm.
because the first set molded.
Yeah.
Um, the books are the most difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's easily handled by having it digitally on a flash drive.
Yeah.
So when you buy this in my store, it will be the deck of cards and a flash drive with the book and the character sheets on it.
Oh, okay.
For the Kickstarter, I will be doing a book.
So you're gonna get it printed somewhere.
I'm getting it printed, but the thing is that it takes so long to get them printed.
Okay.
So I'm learning from my mistakes and trying to figure out how to streamline it and how to make it easier for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the approach I look at. I look at the business as starting with a project,
Mm-hmm.
testing it out on myself because I
Mm-hmm.
make these things for me first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Then going out to the trusted few, see how they like it, get their feedback, and then offering it as a Kickstarter.
Okay.
And the Kickstarter pays for the inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was also selling it on my shop, but I closed down the shop as I am
That was
making the
gonna be my next
transition.
question: is where are you selling these things?
I was selling it on my shop. I had an Etsy shop,
Okay.
right? And I
Right. The
was
caramel
actually,
sugar.
yeah, Caramel Sugar Evil, and I was actually doing quite well doing that. But when I
Okay.
realized that I was going to stop, I was going to stop writing books as my primary business.
Mm-hmm.
I had to tear that all down.
Okay.
And not only that, but I was doing a lot of things, and some things were working, but I didn't enjoy them.
Okay.
Like, I was doing some courses on Skillshare,
Okay.
and those were that really paid. It really did.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't like doing them because that means I have to be in front of a camera looking at it, and that
Yeah.
requires practice.
Okay.
And
And those courses are things where you have to be actively engaged, or are they passive?
well, the courses are passive, but
Okay.
I have to be actively engaged to make them.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying you had some that were done already, and then you just don't want to do more.
Right. Well,
But the ones that you have that are done, are you gonna keep selling those, or are they the kind of thing that like time out after a while? They're not.
it's on Skillshare, so if they find it, it's
Okay.
still there,
Okay.
but it's also very old and it hasn't been updated
Okay.
because it was nice, but it wasn't what I wanted to do at that time.
Yeah.
And now that I've changed my view on what I want to do, I'm going to revisit courses,
Okay.
especially since I have many more small projects I can speak on, like
Hmm.
how to make a tarot deck or how to make a Kipper deck.
Yeah.
I know how to do those things. And
Hmm.
so I could put together courses to do that.
Yeah.
And I will once, I won't be doing it for the essentialism, but when I do my next set of oracle cards,
Hmm.
when I do the ones for the lens,
Hmm.
I will be doing a step by step on how to do those.
Okay.
But I do these project based, and the profit is always spent on building inventory for something else.
Okay.
Now that I am closer to understanding what I want to do, things like the cards will be going on my TikTok shop and my Linktree shop.
Okay.
I don't want to deal with Etsy anymore.
Etsy is annoying.
It is annoying.
It's
It
well, I mean, it's just got a lot of fees for everything.
mhm.
Um, and TikTok is still, I don't know if it's because I'm new or what, but TikTok is still throwing like free shipping on things that I'm not paying for.
Right.
And then it'll do discounts and stuff. And so people save money, but I'm not losing any money.
Hmm.
Where like if I want to do any kind of discount on Etsy, then it costs me. And if I want to pay for shipping, then I'm paying for shipping for them so that they have free shipping.
Hmm.
So I am leaning more towards the TikTok shop, but there are still some people who aren't comfortable with buying off of TikTok who would be willing to buy off of Etsy. So I don't know if I'm going to drop Etsy altogether.
I'm thinking about going back to Shopify
Mm,
only because it's fewer fees and I can integrate it more seamlessly into the things I want to do. Eventually, Caramel Sugar Evil will be an app.
okay.
And I want to be able to push that through my products through an app as
Mm-hmm.
well as a site. I do not know how, other than it being on Shopify, I don't know how my store is going to look now. That's one
Okay.
of the things I'm working on is how, what I'm offering and what I want the shop to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the piece that you find me at now when it comes to, well, how are you selling it? That's the bit I'm working on now
Okay.
because I don't want to deal with Amazon or anything like that unless I'm
Right.
doing a book. And frankly, my next book is going to be word finds and coloring books.
Are
Be-
you still making money off the old books?
hmm?
Are you
No,
still making up? No.
no, because I have pulled all my marketing from them.
Okay.
Marketing is quite expensive.
Yeah.
And especially in the beginning, you would see folks making five figures, is making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. That's because they were spending 20 to 30,000 in advertising and marketing. All
Right.
right, especially on the front end. And while some have been able to turn that into something that pays for itself and is self-generating, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people have not. A lot of people find that they still have to.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I I have been looking for ways to get more organic marketing
Mm-hmm.
through. And I'm finding that it's more successful through making of merch
Okay.
because, once again, what that wall merch is people repping for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding things that I love, I love making, and people and that's easy to replicate.
Yeah.
Because I also make things so other creatives can learn how to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another big part of why I do what I do and why I make the choices that I make.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always want there to be a version of what I make that can be scaled down for the brokies like I am currently. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about, oh, it's so expensive to do these things. Yes, but there is also a way to work on that and work on your books when you don't have a lot of either time or money to spare.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm hoping I'm not like mumbling and jumbling and just kind of rambling.
No, this is good. This is helpful to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so your previous project is paying for the next project, so the business is paying for itself. Is any of it paying for your life yet, or is that still a goal you're working towards?
When I was in the thick of it, it was okay. When I was in the thick of it and at my height, it was paying for dream projects. It was paying for extra things within the business. I've always spent the money that I've earned into doing more and testing more and playing more within the business. And the help and assistance that I've received during the years has all been to creating more and figuring things out.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't got to the point where I could live off of it because I purposely spent the money on developing other things.
Okay.
All right. And I also like working outside the house a couple of days a week. I really do like that. That is the life that I chose for myself.
So the working at the bakery and the HEB and all of that is what pays for your life. You're like outside of business, non-stuff like.
Yes.
If I may be so nosy.
No, it's fine.
You can 100% say no if I ask you something you don't
No,
want
it's no, it is not. It's just that no one's ever asked me that. I was kind of stunned.
No, everything you're doing so many things, and so you have so many creative projects going, and I just feel like that must take a lot of time. And so I'm struggling with when are you earning the money that's feeding you?
Okay. So let me break this down in a couple ways. There's 3 things that has helped me. Number 1, my lifestyle. I'm also married and my husband's paying the mortgage, but I'm also responsible for some things in the household maintenance and also my life, as in when I want to go out, when I want to go to the movies, when I want to have fun, stuff like that. I have to take care of those things. I have tried to reduce that, so I am not paying any more than like $1,200 to $1,500 a month.
Okay.
That's the first thing. And I'm trying to reduce that even further. All right. The second thing is that going into self-publishing, I had gotten a buyout from my tech job.
Oh, okay.
Right. And that was another part of it, is that I had this on ramp.
And like a nest egg.
And I also had a partnership with a bigger concern. Now, those 3 things allowed me to introduce authors into indie publishing. And they've gone on and they've taken the skills that they developed when somebody else was paying for it and made solid, amazing things for themselves. Right? They've gone on and built some amazing things. And I have been able to live the lifestyle of which I've grown accustomed. Right? So it was always a plan. When I did my budget, I always did 2 budgets, and I have 2 sets of bank accounts, one for my private life and one for my business. And when I got my payout, I split it up between the 2, and that allowed me to publish and do as much as I was able to, along with a partnership. And I kept a little part-time job. I've never worked more than like 2 to 3 days a week in an outside job since 2016.
Okay.
Right. And that was enough to pay my household stuff.
Okay.
Right. So, and all the fancy things you saw me with between 2016 and now, that was a combination of me saving between like extra profit
Mm-hmm.
and my working outside the home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was that.
Okay.
But that saying that most of the stuff that I splurge on are things that I can use to benefit my business.
Mm-hmm.
Like I buy a lot of board games and I buy a lot of TTRPGs and I buy a lot of enamel pins from artists that I love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they inspire me and they're beautiful,
Yeah.
right? I support a lot of people on Kickstarter because I love their stuff and I like the ideas they generate,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's how I spend my money. So so I don't. So when folks talk about the lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
also I'm in my 50s. I'm an empty
Mm-hmm.
nester. I started this as an empty nester, right?
Yeah.
And so my needs and my lifestyle needs are different than yours.
Yeah.
You have with two kiddos,
Yeah.
and you still got a lot of road before you
Oh
find
yeah.
an off ramp, right?
Right.
So your considerations have to be different,
Yeah.
right? How this fits into your life has to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And I recommend the project method for folks who don't have a lot of time, don't have a lot of energy. But ooh, that might be what I'm talking about the next 6 weeks because as it happens, I'm just starting several projects.
Okay.
So yes, I will talk about the project method and how this looks in budgeting and all of that.
I think that would be really helpful and
I
just
think so.
fascinating. Um,
So
because I mean, I am, even though I am still leaning into the author side, like the books are projects, like they're just like long term projects that I'm working on. I'm trying to make them ever shorter term projects.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, they are. I'm working on this one thing at a time.
Yeah, books are they can absolutely be a project. You can't. The thing is that I always thought that I had to do 5 books, and you might have to.
Yeah.
But looking at each individual book as its own project that
Mm-hmm.
pays for the next,
Yeah.
or looking at the set of 5 books as a project and you piece together what you need piece
Mm-hmm.
by piece and working
Yeah.
towards earning
Because
and saving the money for your covers and knowing what you
right.
want and all that.
I did pretty like so I the Velas that I did before I started or while I was doing the first novel paid for the first novel.
Right.
And then the first novel paid for the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And so theoretically the second one is going to pay for the third one, but I don't know because it just launched. So right now I'm at a place where everything was it was totally balanced until I decided I needed to go to a conference, and then until I needed to order the inventory because the inventory wasn't covered by the previous one.
Right.
So now I'm in the hole a little bit because I have to earn back the money that I spent on the like hotel and that stuff. And then the money that I spent buying books to sell.
Right.
But the TikTok store is doing pretty well the last couple of days. So it kind of makes up for the fact that I didn't sell anything in Amazon in the last 3 days. Mm-hmm. Is that I sold 3 boxes and 1 double book pack. So I'm hoping that this one, then it pays for the third one. And then theoretically, when you have 3, everybody says that when you have 3, that there's some kind of like jump because people are looking for a completed trilogy and people are looking for whatever. So I'm hoping that that's true.
That is true because I'll tell you myself, I don't start series until they're over. and getting to the point now where that's working for me in television. Because there's some things that if they're doing an episodic thing, I wait until it's done and then I sit and I
And then
watch them.
binge the thing.
Yeah. And then if you've been reading sci-fi as long as I have, with Robert Jordan sitting up there, ending up writing 3 books before finishing Wheel of Time, then promptly dying, and requiring Brandon Sanderson to finish them, and George R. R. Martin still not finishing Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those books
I want it done. I want it done. So yeah, that makes perfectly good sense to me. I want it absolutely done. And even then, and I'll make this as I'm going to hold this as a suggestion and an option. I am leaning away from what the public might want because I've never written to market. Writing to market works for some people because some people, especially folks who lean towards more journalistic or your lawyers or stuff like that, they are used to writing to appeal to an audience. And so, or your romance writers also.
Right.
So that works for them. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
That's not my ministry. That's not how I operate. Right. So I lean towards what do I want as someone in the fandom? I am a member of a lot of different fandoms, and I know the things that I, as a fan, want in terms of what I'm ingesting, in terms of what I want to see, and in terms of what I want to buy. So and when I enter new areas like games and cards, I study what it is that the readers are offering. What are the crystal sellers what the readers are doing and selling. And then I look at things like their desk and see what they are buying and what they are purchasing to put on them when they're doing these readings, right?
Oh, yeah.
What do I see them constantly doing that I like? And what do I constantly see doing that if I did it, I would need this or that or a third? Right?
Okay.
Like I see them doing that, but if I was doing that, altar cloth is a big one.
Okay.
I see the same black tri-moon altar cloth on everybody's desk, right? And that I don't like them. I don't like them. And I do understand that that is a vestment of their religion and how they choose to worship, right? And part of it is also shorthand and branding to tell people that I am of this certain leniency or certain form of worship. But what I want is a big, like, mouse pad. Like, those huge mouse pads. That's how I want to do my readings.
Okay.
So, and I'm testing out what I like with that, and I'll offer it. But that's also far in the future. I think this calls for my portion of it for the next few weeks is to kind of break down how I budget these things and how I put those together. Yeah, I'm thinking, let's talk about that. How would I go about? What would you want to know about how I put together these two projects, knowing that the end result, as I've planned it so far, will be a box launch and a Kickstarter. Yeah, a box launch.
So I think first of all, I would want like a just a walkthrough of like what are your steps that you take? What do you do?
Let me write those down.
From conceptualizing your plan into like practically putting it into action. And then like what unexpected challenges have you come up with or run across while you were doing it? You've done a few different projects, so maybe what have you learned from one project to the next that you're implementing as you go into the next one, to new ones?
Why don't we kind of shift gears and make this more of a project podcast?
Okay.
Where the end goal at least for now, is to get our stores up and running.
Okay.
And that will look different for you and for me, because for me to get my store up and running, I'm going to want my products developed further and a few more. I want to get my products developed. I
Yeah.
have a lot of pieces, parts, and I have a lot of inventory,
Yeah.
but now I want to put together products under brands,
Okay.
right? And I'm building it to support launches and boxes and Kickstarters and monthly subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And yours is different because you are doing books and
Yeah.
you're writing serials, you're writing trilogies, and you're doing a lot of things, and you're having merch as a part of that. And
Yeah.
Kickstarter isn't as integral to your process at this point, I believe,
No.
correct?
Right. I am thinking about Kickstarter later on. Once I've got the trilogy finished, I want to do special editions, and I was looking at Kickstarter as being an option for that, for doing like hardbacks with the pretty edges and the what all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, I think that's going to be my homework. This is going to be new accountability
okay.
because, like I said, I have the 3 projects that I want to get together. And as I'm doing that, I also want to put together my site and my app.
Okay.
Yeah. And as we do this, I will be working on the process. And another reason why to start posting articles on my Substack. And I think the first step for us is um, to revisit the Building the Creative Life website.
Okay.
And the reason why that was paused was because I was having a hard time finding. I was having a hard time finding a plugin that would the plugins that I was using for podcasts weren't working,
Okay.
and that required more research than I had time for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like an idea.
Okay.
I'll start making a plan, and next week I will lay out how lay out my goals, lay out
Okay.
my projects, and then the actionable steps that I'm going to do to get to those steps, to get to those things, and the goal.
Okay.
Hmm.
I like it. I like it a lot. I think this is gonna be really fun.
I think this is going to be really fun too. And I'm getting the nervousness in my tum tum, so I know I'm going on the right path here. Oh, okay. So, what about you?
Yeah. Okay. So I am. Well, if you pick a song, I will do an intro, outro, and maybe a trailer over the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good time frame for that?
Yeah, it is.
But then I also want to start. I had intended to write 5,000 words a week,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't done that. I mean, I have, but it's not actually, it's like notes and bits that are here and there, and I need to like actually write narrative.
Right.
So my goal for next week is to do that, to write 5,000 words in a week. So for this week, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do if I'm going to work on our intro, outro, trailer situation. I'm going to explore some more of the updates that came up in Riverside. Because I know I can get their AI thing to pull little clips out that I might be able to use for the trailer. And then I'm going to try and really focus on the writing, because this last couple of weeks I just have been distracted by wanting to get the book boxes out and all the other random craziness that has happened. So fingers crossed for no more random craziness.
Yay.
I have sold out of boxes, so I can't do anything else with them until I get more stuff in the mail. So it seems like this is a good time to just like knuckle down and write the thing.
Okay, so, are you nervous? Because I'm nervous.
A little bit, yeah.
We're both just like, oh my God, we're making the plans again.
We got plans. We got plans in action. I think we got this. It's going to be awesome.
Oh yeah, we absolutely have this. It's going to be awesome, but the tummy is still going to be a little rumbly until we get into a steady cadence. And that's another thing. It feels weird and it feels like, oh my God, this is too much. But once we lay it out, we can eliminate the things that we really don't want neither can be combined into other things. And from there, pick our projects, make our plan.
All right. I'm going to stop the recording here and we can keep talking about other stuff. But like, we have a plan now. We are moving forward. We are ready to go on.
Yes.